We're here in Baker Street, outside Maison Kayser. Talk to renowned French boulanger Eric Kayser about his first London opening. So you've taken Maison Kayser across the world, but this is your first store in London.
Yes.
Why London and why now?
I think at first we have starting 15 years ago to open in Tokyo. It was a dream for me to open in Japan with these Japanese people. They like to reproduce what you show to the people. After we are going to open in New York. Now before Singapore, Hong Kong, and now London. I think London is similar that New York is tough market, very good market, very strong, but you need to be ready. So we cannot open too big capital in 2 or 3 years. So we need to be ready with our team. We need to be ready to find the good location. So it's funny because we find our first location in Baker Street. So it takes 15 years to find that. It's nice. I joke, but it's a dream to find a good location in the right place and try to teach to the people how we can do a good bread, how we need to realize a good sandwich, a good tartine, a good coffee. Take time, so we go step by step.
So you mentioned Japan, which is the country you have the second most stores in. What is it about the Japanese culture that really appeals to you and made you want to bring your boulangeries there?
Japanese people, they like a good product. So it's funny because when you open in Japan, at the beginning you have a long queue for 6 months, perhaps a few hundred meters of queue. People coming, and after they stopped after 6 months. So you need to be ready after that to make a good business. So you need at first to make a very good product. People need to understand what is the spirit of your concept and what you sell. They want a pure ingredient. Natural fermentation is very important, and the respect of the seasons. And this is what we have learned in Japan.
As you mentioned, kind of natural ingredients, and you're a big fan of natural leavening agents and CLC flours. Why are those ingredients so important to you?
I think in the bakery, if you go back to the past, to the story of the bakery, 1,000 years ago, we don't have industrial yeast. We have the natural sourdough, or we say in French levain, we say sourdough, or we say mother, is the same. It's a very natural fermentation, very natural yeast. And this yeast push the bread for a good fermentation. So if you go back to this recipe, you go with a long fermentation with natural levain, you use a very natural ingredient, you can do something fantastic. And this is what we need to do. And this is what we try to do in London too.
Why do you think people are so kind of appreciative of artisan products now? Why do you think they stand out?
Yeah. At first we need to explain what is artisan. Artisan normally means that you mix and you bake your bread on the same place. So it's very important. This is why we put the oven in front of the people. Just beside the vitrine, we have the baker, and you see the bakers, they put the bread in the oven. It's very important. So I think people now in the world in general, not just in London or in Paris or in New York, they want to understand which type of product they eat. They want natural fermentation, they want natural product. And I think if we can do that and explain to the people, is very important.
Do you think it's the same for patisserie products?
I think
you mentioned bread.
Yeah, I think for pastry you have 2 ways. One way is people like to eat a very natural product with no preservative, no improver, nothing. And another way is you find these industrial cakes in the supermarket with a lot of ingredients. So 2 ways, I think. It's similar for the bread and for all the food. But one way is a little more expensive.
Would you say that perhaps for patisserie it's the technique that's more important than the ingredients, or?
I think you can do a very good puff pastry with natural ingredients. It's not difficult. So, but at first you need to understand what you want to do and what you want to sell.
Your baking incorporates lots of traditional and natural methods. Are there any modern tools or techniques that interest you?
No, I think we are going back to the very old recipe because we are going back from for example, if you see the tourte au levain, it's a very old and traditional bread. So we use this old recipe, but we have adapted to a new technology because we have a new oven, we have a new machine to take care of our sourdough. So this is how you can go from the past to the future, I think. Use a very old recipe, but adapt with a new equipment. If not, we're starting to go back to the car with a horse. Again?
Do you have any tips for people that are baking at home?
Yes, I think if the people want to do a bread at home, they need to be patient. Normally, when I do a demo for people, they bake at home. We're starting to mix the dough one day before. When we finish to mix the dough, we put a cover, and after we put in a fridge. And next day we're starting to work with the dough. This is the way. We need to have a long fermentation. If you don't do that, you need to put a lot of industrial yeast, and your bread is not good. So if I need to say one sentence, they need to be patient, starting to bake one day before, put in the fridge, and next day starting to work with the dough. Shipping, molding, and after baking.
What's your favourite thing to bake?
My favorite bread?
Yes, your favourite type of bread or your favourite?
I think it's depending. For the morning, I like to take the baguette and put butter and honey and put in my coffee, and after eating, it's beautiful. For lunch, I like tartine with tomato, with ham, artichokes, and all of that, but very natural and local ingredient. And afternoon, sometimes I eat a cake. You know, it's depending the time of the day, but I like to change. But all the time, I find something to eat in my place.
You mentioned quite a lot about the history of French baking and going back to your roots and finding traditional techniques. Is there any kind of technique or any particular type of bread that you feel has kind of been forgotten or is underappreciated?
So we are going back now to use a lot of old cereal or old recipe, and coming back at the fashionable now. For example, we use a lot of buckwheat. Before we use for a galette, now we use for the bread, and people say it's good for the heart, for the life, for the body. We use turmeric, very good for the memory and for the life too. We are going back to the spelt. So we use a lot of very old cereal, and we introduce to make a new recipe. And I think this is fashionable too, to take the old and to go back. It's similar as the car. They use a Mini, and they're starting to make a new generation of Mini in this time. It's beautiful.
A number of French bakers have recently come over to London and opened stores. What do you think about that? Do you like the fact that the French are coming and bringing the style over to England, or would you rather see the English kind of develop their own style a bit more?
I think, you know, in London you don't have so many bakeries, so people can open many places in different streets. It's okay, it's available. If you see Paris, we are 6 million Parisians, and you have more than 3,000 bakeries. So in London, I think you are 8 million, perhaps 9 million, 10 million people, and perhaps you have 100 bakeries. So I think we have a lot of space. Huh? It's not just a term of bakery, because you see it's a bakery, pastry, food, cake, tea time. So it's a large concept.